Hey guys, welcome back. It's Graphic Effects sponsored, Overkill Radio sponsored radio. I said Overkill Radio. Overkill Audio Garage. Audio. Just call Andy. I'm having a rough day today. It's Get Slydewayz. Overkill Garage, that's right. It's Get Slydewayz with me, Barry Clapp. We got Miss Ashley in the house subbing for Mr. Brent. Mr. Brent is really distraught today because he's had a little, what would you say, a little procedure done, and it did not go as smoothly as he wanted it to, so he's laid up in the bed a little sore. So he's really upset that he's missing this episode.
Yep.
Brent has been the biggest proponent for our current guest for tonight, Mr. Jonathan Cash Hurst, Cash Racing.
Yes.
Brent is your biggest fan. We all are. But Brent has been fussing about things going on in your world for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So Brent is your biggest fan. So he's upset that he's not here tonight to be able to.
It's funny because I drove with him. You know, we competed at State of Drift.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you really?
I shared the podium with him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. At Beach Bend?
Yeah, and me and him.
That's right. I remember that. That's so funny.
It goes way back.
That's the one that Human
funny.
talked about,
Yes.
too, about
Yeah.
when he finished second that night or whatever.
Yeah.
You won it,
No,
I think.
we
No?
got third. Brent won.
Oh, Brent won it?
I think.
Man,
Pretty sure.
We'll have to look that picture
Yeah, we're
up.
gonna
We'll
have
have
to
to
find
see if we can't find that. That'd
Yeah.
be awesome.
Or Human won it.
I think Human
I bet
finished
Human
second.
did.
I thought or that's the one that was down in Huntsville he was talking about that he
Yeah.
finished second at.
Yeah, he might have won it.
Because he had just finished second at the Pro-Am or something, and he told a story about he came and ran that silly little KMS event, and that guy told him, well, since you couldn't get first in the Pro-Am, here's your second place trophy at that event. So he thought
Those
that
are
was
funny
hilarious.
events.
Oh, my gosh. Dude, like...
Yeah, I guess that was a KMS event, not a State of Drift event.
Yeah, that must have been in Beach Bend then.
Yeah, it was for sure. Beach Bend.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, we're so glad that you could come. We wanted to ask you all kinds of questions, but I'm sure we can't ask you all the good stuff we want to. You've still got your appeal thing going, so we don't want to get you in trouble. We don't want you to have to be compromised with any of your answers or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Before we even dig into that, so you've been drifting for a long time.
Absolutely.
I've known you for several years.
Yep.
When did you, what's your beginning story?
Well, it's funny because it's the first event ever was your event. I mean, I had no, ties with you, didn't know who you were or anything, but that was like 2011 when I was in high school. There was a local guy named Isaac that had a RB Swap 240. He drifted a lot, and back then my buddy was in high school, and we put trays on like a back of a front wheel drive car, and would pull the e-brake, and just drive with that. And then he eventually got an RX-7, and then I ended up getting a 240 hatch. And then we were in high school. We decided that we were going to just drive to this local drift event, 2 hours away, and we didn't know anything, to trailer the car or nothing. So we just showed up, and there was a bunch of full-blown race cars, and so we came to a Tennessee drift event that you held at the Super Speedway in the parking lot.
That was out in the front lot, out in the I guess media center lot out there. When we used to do them out there
for sure.
And as in 2011.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, Tyson Schmidt.
Yeah.
So he had showed up with this gnarly coupe that had the checkered dash,
the white and gold car, the two-tone car,
and it had 15-inch steelies with a LS.
Yeah, and the metal inner fender wells inside the engine compartment.
That thing, honestly, as soon as I seen that car, I was like, yo, I'm gonna have that. I was young, so I didn't know a lot about that, but we were doing dumb stuff when I was younger, drag racing and stuff like that. But when I seen that car, I was like, I want to have one of those, and then that's kind of it snowballed after that. So
absolutely, Tyson was a cool cat. He used to come to all of our events.
Yep,
he came to several of them, even the fairgrounds. Even when we got out on the road course at the Super Speedway, he would come to some of those.
Yeah, he's still around. I mean, he does some SR stuff, but I think he still has that car even.
Wow, that's cool. That was a pretty little car.
That thing was so nice for back then. And the LS swaps weren't huge then.
Yeah.
So, when you seen that car, everyone, swarmed it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they had to hear it. They had to hear that big motor in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny that and it was probably a stock, what?
I don't know. It was it had, the Corvette covers, though, so it made it look really good inside the engine bay.
I wonder.
So, that really, honestly, that car, because I ended up building a coupe with the LS just like that.
Yeah, I remember the white car, right?
Yep.
I remember that.
You put graphics on it.
Kentucky.
West Kentucky Customs.
Yes,
it was like
that's
really
right.
big down the side.
I see that.
It was like the first couple sponsors that I had when I was younger.
That pops up on my memories every once in a while at the shop. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you drove all the way down to my shop to get that done. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, all right, there must not be anybody in Kentucky that can let her race car. Oh, man, that's a long way to come for that. So you went to that event. You got the bug.
Yeah.
Was the little white coupe your first car? What was the...
Well, yeah, so then it was an SR swapped hatch that I swapped in auto tech class in high school.
Nice.
And then, we drifted that. But I kind of fell out of the drifting, a little bit. Had a couple LS swapped, or had a few SR swapped 240s, and then got an then I was like, all right, I'm going to build my LS swap car and try to drift a little bit more serious. And it kind of went good, but I was still street racing, drag racing a lot though at the same time.
Right.
And wasn't really focused on competing too much. But it kind of when I don't know if it was a KMS event or whatever, but it was at Beach Bend. I think we're talking about that event.
Yeah.
And I don't know, someone came up to me and was like, dude, you're doing really good. It was Brian from AMSOIL. And I walked up to him at the end of the event and was like, oh, hey man, can I I want to sponsor? I didn't know. And he was like, maybe we'll talk about it. And then the Live Green Tea or Live Green Tea Hawaii. Dennis. I mean, and still to this day, I talked to him. He was my very first sponsor.
That's cool.
So it just kind of snowballed after that stuff, and I got some sponsors, but I was still doing dumb stuff. That I probably shouldn't have been doing. Drag racing and stuff. But it kind of started out then.
I seem like I remember the orange G that you had. It seemed like I remember. Or Z, yeah, it wasn't a G. That's right.
That
it was a 350Z.
the thing that took off everything.
And then
the G was green, right?
Well, it was orange first.
It was a lot of colors.
It was, yeah.
The Z was a lot of colors.
You ran that thing down the drag strip a few times. I remember that.
Yeah.
So you were still kind of bouncing back and forth. But
actually, I was still street racing and drag racing the same year I won my Pro 2 license. Same car, same year. I got the cover of 1320 video.
Yeah.
The same year I got my Pro 2 license.
Wow, that's cool.
That's awesome.
And that's honestly when I quit doing that. We would go to Texas, and do the street racing and stuff, and it was cool, and everyone was thinking it was crazy that I had a parachute on my drift car,
Yeah.
So, but after that though, everything kind of changed. Not many people were doing it. Cops was really serious.
Yeah.
And also probably Formula Drift think that was a good thing.
Yeah, you might.
Because I was stupid. I didn't even think about it. I still had my Pro-Am tag on my car. So it had my name on the car. And I'm over here street racing it, Was it smart?
That's funny.
Well, but that's what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
was
so
cool.
funny. So, so you ran that. So you got your Pro 2 in that Z?
Yeah, in the Z. Yeah, so the 240, I LS swapped it. I never caged it though. Did some small events. Never really took off with it. And then I traded that car for the 350Z.
Oh, okay.
And then
it was a
LS
little coupe though. It was a nice little
car.
car.
No, it was really nice. I actually sold it to a guy in New York, and he still has it.
Wow.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
But I just took the engine trans out of it, and the 350Z was more modern. There wasn't very many LS swaps done yet on a Z, so I got the Z. Did that, and then that's whenever I started I turboed it and did all the stuff that I shouldn't have done. No one around us was turboing an LS, and especially in a swapped car at the time.
Yeah,
kind of took off from there.
Yeah,
and then people in Pro-Am hated me probably because I took a drag car and went to compete. My first year, and it was a twin turbo LS in Pro-Am, and people were like, "What's this idiot doing?"
Yeah.
He's got 3 times the horsepower everyone else does. So
yeah,
they were, it was funny though.
That's great.
Yeah, but did they fuss and cry about your power? Or
at first, but the car was turned down for drifting. It only made 600. Yeah, it made 1,200 turned up, or 1,100. But
you can't convince anybody of that.
Yeah,
they just see the turbos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would just smoke a lot of people out. But at the time, I went to my first Pro-Am event and podiumed, and then that's what started. That's honestly what really, really started everything. Because I wasn't going there to I didn't think I really had the chance. Then I podiumed. I'm like, all right, let's take this
Maybe
serious.
I can do this.
Yeah, and then my friends were like, all right, we're going to start doing this for real, So
nice.
Then that kind of snowballed to a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been fun to watch you grow because, do you do that full time, the shop where you're building cars now and all that stuff?
Yeah,
what's the deal?
I have a shop that I build cars, do a bunch of bunch of cam swaps and stuff like that. Do a lot of Corvettes and Chevy trucks, DOD deletes and stuff like that. But yeah, now racing season's hitting, so it ain't not too much is going on in the shop other than trying to get to the race.
Wintertime work.
Yeah. Well, it's still summertime work. Just the customers getting a little mad.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. When you get that busy, you just gotta deal with it.
Absolutely.
It is what.
Yeah.
it is.
Like I don't even post about it. Just word of mouth. From drifting and getting a name around the local area. A lot of people recommend me to come. So I try to do as best I can.
That's cool. I mean, you become like a little local celebrity in the hometown.
For sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty sweet. So where do you live again? Where is it exactly?
Paducah, Kentucky.
Paducah, that's right.
Yep.
I couldn't remember where. I knew you'd come a long way just to come down here to the shop and hang out with us tonight. So.
Yeah, it's not too far. Like I said, that from this being the beginning of where everything started, I was like, it's worth it. So.
Kind of a little full circle deal.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
I love it. So like I went to Clarksville last weekend.
Oh,
and I used to help Ryan Wares a lot, with his little purple car, and we wrapped it, and I had a lot to do with teaching him how to drive and all that stuff. And then this is the first time I've been there in 6 or 7 years to drive. And I got in there, and there was Ryan, and he got in line behind me. And it was so funny. That was like the last run I was making on that set of tires, and I pulled off and went straight back to the pits, and I looked up, and he was running up behind me. Mm-hmm. And it was like his full circle moment,
Yeah, absolutely.
The purple Z, right?
Yeah, the one that's all, 80s
Yeah,
style.
he was
like
ecstatic.
That. Yeah, he was really happy that he got to make a run behind me because it just...
it's funny you say that. Like, I go to all those Clarksville events, and I'll try to chase, like, someone in a stock car, and they're like, get really nervous. I'm like, just do your thing, and then they come in, they're like, dude, I'm so stoked you drove. I'm like, I just think I'm a normal person when I go to those events. I just want to drive with everybody. I went to a lot of No Star Bash events and drove, like, I would have my pro car there, and then I'd pull up behind like a stock FRS, and they're like, yo, this car's stock FRS. I'm like, so I just want to have fun,
Yeah. Well, and
That's great.
and that helps you to be able to follow a slow car in case you get into a situation in FD.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I like that. That's what I have the most trouble with just because I don't have the horsepower, or maybe I just don't have the skills, is following a slower car.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll get you in trouble.
I think
does.
It's the horsepower.
Huh?
I think it's the horsepower.
Well, in that little Z I've got now, it probably is. It don't have anything done to it. I tried to follow Joey Demp's and his that tan colored one with the black stripes and the teeth,
and the teeth in the front.
All that. I tried to follow him, and I couldn't even follow him without
that was a
straightening
great time,
up because he was all angled out and left foot braking, and I can't do that in that stock Z.
Well, following a slower car is so hard on the drivetrain of the car that like in my car, but it's so fun though.
Be right up against his door.
Yeah.
So old Justin was here, and Justin was trying to figure out who to blame when you put the door mark on his Monte Carlo.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't, like, at first I was just joking with him. I was like, hey, it was my fault or whatever. And it was my fault. I was being super aggressive, absolutely. But at the same time, he kind of checked up in a spot you shouldn't check up. So I smoked that car. I mean, honestly, the damage was not as bad as I thought it was.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Because his car was... it's a steel body car.
Yeah.
Against a fiberglass car, you know, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, when he brought it over here to fix it, so where that tire mark was right in the middle of the door.
Yep.
When I peeled the wrap off.
That tire mark isn't bad.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose because he kept, he likes to talk a little smack.
That's right.
So he's like, oh, you can't even keep up. I'm like,
okay.
All right, well, both cars are going to get tore up, but okay. But no, there was a time that I, transitioned and smoked the whole back of his car.
Oh yeah, the right rear quarter
destroyed
the right rear quarter.
Yeah. It disintegrated my headlight. Went into a million pieces.
Well, but there's nothing holding that car together. I mean, it's just a body. It's not like a big. So it just folded up
for sure.
They beat that all the way back out.
Yeah, no problem. They're like, if it was someone else, we might be mad. But I'm like,
you get a pass.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Cash put a door mark on my
car. Oh my God.
He was tickled to death. And of course, old Jeff couldn't stop talking about it,
He didn't hit you on Sunday?
Oh God, yeah.
But now though, the problem is
terrified.
He was still telling us.
The problem is Justin's getting good enough now that he can probably door mark me.
Yeah.
And if he in that car, I don't want to be door marked.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That thing's a tank.
Get a piece of.
I drove that car. It's a good car. Like, it will compete with a lot of other cars.
That's cool.
So it's funny that when I got to drive it that one day. Like, I could not believe I was almost hitting 100 in that thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's sketchy driving it, but it worked really well.
Yeah.
That was at the Speedway, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the Super when we were doing the radar thing down there in Turner.
Like, there was a couple of times I initiated and I like threw it way too sideways, and I was like, "There's no recovering," and it would come back. And I was so surprised how well it worked.
Well, it's 4 yards long. I mean, it's a big old long car.
is.
So you can throw that sucker hard.
Yeah, but no, they're good people though.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, we love the Napiers today.
Yeah, they're a hoot.
He's a mess. That you did that door mark perfectly, because when he brought it over here to fix all the little stuff and get it all cleaned back up for Pro-Am, when I peeled the 2 layers of vinyl off of it, there wasn't a mark in the paint.
Oh really?
The tire mark, all it did was shave the vinyl. The vinyl protected the paint, and you didn't hit it hard enough to hurt anything. There's no dent. There's no trace that it was ever even there once I fixed the wrap on it.
That's super rad.
It's actually funny because I was gonna try and door mark it with Jeff driving it.
Yeah.
Because we did a lap, and I was like, I gave him a bunch of room. The first one, I was like, dude, Jeff just shredded.
Yeah.
I was like, I can chase him.
Yeah, he's learning.
And then the next lap he spun, and it caused Connor to smoke me and all this stuff. But it was funny. But Jeff's like, super upset that he's like, man, I caused this. I'm like, dude, it's
whatever.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, he's from the old round track world, and in that world, if you cause an accident or cause some damage to somebody's fight, it's a fight is what it is. That's what he's used to. So he was coming to apologize, thinking about the old days.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember that. I mean, I remember racing at Highland Rim or at the fairgrounds, and if you touch somebody, oh my gosh, you better be head on a swivel when you get back to your pit box.
For sure.
That's what I loved about drifting when I first got into drifting. It wasn't like that.
Yep.
You touch another car and it's a hug in the pit. Sounds like, all right,
That's to an extent.
Yeah,
sometimes you get, you're like, what was you doing? But
Well, I'm sure once you get all the money you've got in cars and
just in general, like if, like my biggest thing is like everyone gets hyped to drive against me, and so they, and I did this when I was younger. Like if I'm gonna pull up to the good driver beside me, I'm probably trying to door him.
Yeah.
And I just know what can happen whenever you get too excited like that, then bad things usually will happen.
Tell them to calm down a little bit. It's just me. It's nothing.
That's how I spin out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Elijah will be behind me, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. What do I do? I don't even know how to do this anymore.
You got to keep your composure.
It happens. No, I mean, even now, though, like even when I'm at the top level now, and going against some of these dudes, I do the same thing. I get a little excited. Yeah. Like in my head, though, I'm like, man, I'm gonna door them. I'm gonna hit them. And then that's not what you need to do. You then you put it in the judge's hands with something like that, and then it's just bad.
Well, I was telling everybody about it was when we did the State of Drift thing, and I was driving in it, and I had, out of 16 cars, I'd qualified 16th. It was in Memphis. And that put me against Jonathan Nairn right out of the gate. And I'm sitting here thinking, what have I got for him,
Yeah.
And it timed out perfect. This was like I laid down a pretty good lead run, and he was right on me, just like he should have been.
Yep.
And then it was his turn to lead and my turn to chase. And I talked to him afterward, and it was really funny because he came to the line thinking, this guy's, low horsepower, this, that, and the other, so I'm going to kind of leave the line slow and then rock it out of here and leave him. And in my mind, I was thinking, he's got all kinds of power. I'm going to have to jump the start, and try to stay with him, which worked out perfect for me because through first and second gear and into third gear through that big sweeper, I was right on his door. And I was like, dude, I'm right with this guy. And I got so excited that when we transitioned, I spun out chasing him, because
for sure.
I couldn't believe I was with him,
Yep.
So I bet you deal with that a lot.
Yeah, well, now, like, honestly, last year I was talking with Papadakis, and he was just like, hey, like, we started doing better when we didn't let someone else win because we made a zero or something. Like, usually what would happen is I'll go too hard, hit them, I'll spin or something, then, I created the problem, I'm a zero, and then it's nothing for the next run for them to win, Yeah. So, actually kind of similar to Long Beach. I thought, like, went against James, I know I've got to go super hard, and then I spin out in the beginning, and then I'm like thinking the run, the whole battle's over, but luckily it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I get that. I mean, there's a lot to be said with what goes on between your ears,
For sure.
It's not just your feet and your hands.
Yep.
You gotta have your head right, gotta have your butt right, all of that
absolutely.
stuff to be able
there's
to
a
have
lot.
it ready.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, there's one. Drifting it's cool because I'm like, hey, we don't go down the drag strip and only drive for 6 seconds, but at the same time, you can travel all the way across the United States, get in the car, make 6 practice laps, and you can get put right out and right back in the trailer for what? 10 minutes, you know.
Literally.
It ain't much time you drove, so it's like all that time and effort. So then now, like, I start to calculate it in my head before I run. I'm like, all right, I'm not going in the trailer, you know. So and then I go in the trailer.
That's all right. So listen, guys, that's already the first segment. Time flies, man, when you got something really good to talk about. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We got more to go with Mr. Cash. Hey guys, welcome back. Get Slydewayz with me, Barry Clapp. We've got the lovely Ashley in the house. We're going to see if we can get her to talk here in a minute. We're here with Mr. Cash, Jonathan Cash Hurst, Cash Racing. Do you go by Jonathan Cash Hurst? Do you go by Jonathan Hurst?
Some people call me Cash at the track.
Just
Some
call
people
you
call
Cash?
me Jonathan, yeah.
I'm cool with
Hurst.
calling you Cash. I'll call you Cash. Cash Money. Cash Racing.
A lot of people didn't realize, though, that that's actually my middle name because I've been on such like a budget all the way through the years. Everyone's like, why is it called Cash Racing? And because one year I did no Cash Racing on, I put no in front of it on my door.
Nice.
And they're like, they just thought it was a thing that I was trying to, and I was like, no.
Is it really your middle name?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
my middle name. So.
I didn't know if that was like
That's
a
See, that's
hyphenated
not-
last name or
Yeah,
what.
that's what I'm saying. So a lot of people like thought I was trying to, brand that for other reasons, and it's not. I definitely wouldn't do that,
I
Yeah.
got you.
So my name, so I was like, gotta roll with it.
The Cash Racing's perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. And the no cash. I get that. I feel that pretty good.
Yeah.
I get that. Oh, gosh. So, man. So, we're up to, you've been through the 350Z. I guess
Yep.
we were, where we left off, we were running Pro-Am. Where did you run Pro-Am? Where did you get your...
Midwest Strip Union.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
into you guys.
Honestly, it was the last year they did it, and it was honestly probably the best way I could have went into Pro 2 was because we did 4 rounds, we traveled.
Yeah.
It was the same thing,
Got used to it.
Yeah, but I didn't expect to go to Pro 2, especially after 1 year.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I went was because they canceled the next year. I was going to do another year of Pro-Am.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to go Pro 2 at all.
That was Edgar's group. Edgar and
Edgar, Swan, and them.
Swan was
Yep.
was he just that was before he was running the grid for everything.
Yep.
like
Why
he
did
is
they
now.
cancel it? Do you know?
Honestly, there wasn't that many drivers showing up.
Really?
And at that time that we were getting like 16 drivers maybe.
Oh, wow.
And it's hard to do that, and run it. So,
Yeah.
but I think it was still 3 of us out of that year though. We ran and did well in Pro 2. So I think that series kind of set us up well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd heard a lot of good things about that. I'd heard that the way they ran things, it's like what Louis is trying to do now, to make you to where you kind of you have to be set up and you have to be right,
Yep.
and to make you ready to run Pro 2.
100%.
Because you don't want to just go straight out of grassroots into Pro 2. You'll never be able to handle it.
Yep. Yeah, the biggest thing with going into Pro 2 was like, if you can't do the track in 2 laps, you might as well not show up.
Oh, I bet.
Because sometimes you'd only get 6 laps because there's so many drivers, and I can only imagine now 40 or whatever there is going into it.
Oh, wow.
Someone oils the track or wrecks, or then you're sitting there waiting. And you may only get 4 or 5 practice laps. So before you go and battle, or before it was qualifying, but
you better be able to adapt quick.
Yep, exactly.
And diagnose your car quick if you need to make any changes or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't realize how much setup goes into it.
Yeah, 100%.
You always got to be on your toes.
Because, I use the setup I've got under my bed is just hard as a rock and 30 pounds of air pressure, and just because I'm just out there trying to play and show good time, give people rides. But you guys are completely different.
Yeah, we changed quite a bit, but not as much. I think once you start changing so much that maybe you could fall back in the weekend. So, you only got 2 days a day to really have a good setup. So we try not to change too much. We kind of have a general idea from the previous years where the car needs to be, and that's what's helped it this, like going last year and this year, like we've been to the tracks. We kind of know what gearing, we need and stuff. But before, when I was low budget, like I would go and I would actually message some of the pro drivers and be like, hey, what gear were you in this car? And or what gear ratio was you? And they would tell me. Well, I would take their gear ratio if they would give it up, and then I would watch their in-car videos and see that they were in 4th gear. And then I would calculate I'd go find out what tire they were running, what size, whatever brand they are. Usually there's only one size. And I'd calculate their wheel speed. And then that's how I'd get my own wheel speed when I was in Pro 2. So almost like our team would we rarely had to change the wheel speed. I would just, take averages of what other people were doing. And then I already had my wheel speed,
That's crazy.
Because they wouldn't tell you, they won't tell you your wheel speed. Most teams won't.
Yeah.
There's some guys that will. Yeah. But a lot of teams wouldn't. So, yeah, I would study a lot, just in-car footage to see what gears. Like, Atlanta's big. There's, who changes gears, who doesn't change gears, why don't they? There's a lot of different things.
Yeah. I can see that where you could that's the best way that you can try to get some kind of an advantage to not just be starting out with
so you don't waste the first practice lap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at least get you in the ballpark.
Yep.
Then you can tweak from there on your own deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, wheel speed's super important, so that's kind of a big thing,
Yeah. So Scotty D told us a little bit about that, about wheel speed and the percentage or whatnot. What do you shoot for? Like, if you're going into a corner at 80 miles an hour, what's your real wheel speed need to be? What do you shoot for?
Well, mine, I'm probably a little different than other people because I'm a turbo car. So my wheel speed's probably a little less because I want to be able to rev it really quick. I don't want to lag. I don't want to catch that. So, and also, my car pops off the rev limiter, and all the fans love that. And honestly, I'm not going to lose that. Everyone's like, man, that's so hard on the motor and stuff, and it is.
Yeah.
But luckily, they usually will last a season. And like when I'm doing autographs and stuff, literally people know me because of how loud my car is.
It's literally a staple to you.
So like qualifying, I would like literally turn the rev limiter down just to peg the limiter on qualifying. Yeah, and everyone's like message me, yo, change your wheel speed. I'm like, okay,
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it depends, but yeah, we shoot a little bit more. We're a little different than other people, but close.
In the rain run. It just sounded like
all
the bad guys. All the bad guys in California were there shooting their guns.
Well, I wasn't set up for that. So when I went into that run, it actually was dry when I pulled up to go down to the grid. Oh. And so I'd already had all right, we're putting all of it into this car to go against James Dean. We know they're turning up, so we're going to turn it up. And then my guy goes to get the air compressor to air up the tires right before, and the battery's dead, and it was like half a mile from our pit. Oh, so he just told me that the tires were aired up, and just to make me feel better about it, and they weren't. And so when your tires are basically flat and you go in the rain, it's literally the opposite of what you need for the rain. Gosh. So my car's horrible in the rain. I had no chance. And also when you pull up and you're going against James Dean in the rain,
you're
I'm like,
nervous.
This ain't good.
Yeah.
This ain't good.
Like our first run, they're like, "Do you want a sight lap?" And it was starting to sprinkle.
Yeah.
And they asked James, and I didn't know if he said yes or no. And they asked me, "Hey, we're doing sight laps, but James says he doesn't want to now." I'm like, yeah, no sight lap. I'm like, the last thing I'm trying to do is go in the rain with him. Yeah. And it was a little slicker. Yeah. But it was definitely the right call, I felt like.
Yeah. Well, man, in that rain, that was terrible timing.
It was crazy.
And
it was
the cars looked
crazy.
like they were just barely moving.
They were.
It was
so
the sketchiest thing I brought, maybe besides Atlanta. in the rain. But yeah, like every lap, I was like, "Yep, I'm going in the wall."
Well, yeah. I mean, there's walls at every corner. I mean,
Yep,
I'd be
That
terrified.
track's a car killer, anyways.
I'd be terrified.
Actually, we're in this Stop 16 ceremony, and Forsberg was in front of me, and I was like, "Hey, he's been in this sport 20 years." I was like, "Hey, have you drove this place in the rain?" He's like, "Well, you remember back in like 16 and like 15 cars wrecked here?" I was like, "Oh yeah," and they canceled qualifying. I was like, it did not give me a good feeling,
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Speaking of
gosh.
Atlanta, are you excited? Because
I think
it's, what, 2
Atlanta.
weeks?
Atlanta's where I went and watched Formula Drift and was like, "Hey, I'm going to be one of those guys out there."
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was sitting up there, years before even Pro-Am, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those guys out there." So Atlanta's like, I don't do good there, but
Apparently a lot of people don't.
something just either had like 1 year it rained in Pro 2, and it was like I think like 4 or 5 drivers put down scores. I put a score. But then the track dried, so then everyone got better scores. So I got 17th out of 16 and lost didn't get in the show.
Yeah.
Just had some weird things, mechanical failure at Atlanta. It's a pretty harsh track, but it's the coolest track. It's my favorite track.
That's what everybody says, that it's hard, but it's really, really cool.
Yeah, the elevation change is cool, and you're going really fast. The keyhole's always tight for tandem, so it's just a really good venue. And plus all the fans. I think that venue, as a fan, is probably the best.
I would agree with that. Because
cool.
Just because you sit all the way around and there's not a bad seat in the house. Yeah, that was what our whole deal, Brent and my buddy Scott, they went in 05 the first year.
Yep.
And they called me, "Man, you got to go." And I'm like, I don't even know what drifting is. They went back in 06 and they're like, "Dude, you have to come next year." And I went in 07, and that's where I first got exposed to it. And I was like, yeah, I got to have one.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it was so cool.
It is.
And then I got to drive there at a Grid Life. I went to one of the Grid Lifes at Road Atlanta in the taxi. You remember the M class car, the Infinity M that I had? I took it down there and and came down that hill. And it's so funny that I was a real competitive guy. I had a Pro-Am car. And actually the first time I drove it at Road Atlanta was in the Pro-Am car. I forgot about that. And it ruined me because I was competitive and I wanted to go, and I was like, man, I think I can do this, and I'd build a really nice 240, that blue car I had.
Yep.
And when I went down the hill into 10A and 10B, and we weren't even doing the keyhole like they do it now. We were doing it the old way.
Early, yep. And then
and then going out over under the bridge. Something clicked in my head that I had done what I'd set out to do, and it turned it off. It turned the competitive off.
Oh, that's
I've never told anybody that before.
That's so strange.
Like I was building a car, and I was going to go Pro-Am, and I was going to do like you're doing. And I went down that hill at Road Atlanta, and because I had done it, that's where I saw it first, and that's where I wanted to do it so bad. And when I did it, something turned off in my head.
That's so
I really
wild.
wish they did Grid Life there again.
They
that
should.
was probably one of the best times I've had. Just doing the full track, driving around the full track.
Yes.
The S's were, that's a crazy place
Well,
to
the first year we did it, they didn't let us do anything.
I know.
They let the pros do it, but we had to just drive around and get back in line and just do the Formula D track.
Yeah.
But the second time I went with the taxi, they were letting us do full track, and I did them messes down the hill in that big old car.
That thing is that's pretty fast.
It was.
Section.
It was a little scary too. You come around you come off the pits, and that first time you throw it to the right, there's nothing to see. It's blind.
Yep.
That was a little hairy.
Yeah.
I did it with a kid in the car, and he didn't know we were going to do it. He thought we were driving around to go get back in line. I got to the top of the hill, and I dumped that sucker, and around we went. And when we got down to the bottom of the hill and turned back up to start down the back stretch, he was laughing. It was so funny.
The thing was, it would annihilate one set of tires.
Oh, yeah,
lap.
it was done.
Yep.
Oh,
I was
really?
like, I was like, it's cool to do those. Everyone that would ride me, let's do the fast one. I'm like, do you want to go around the track twice, or do you want to go around once?
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's for real. In that in-car video of that kid, you can hear that tire come loose, right? And so we didn't even get to go down the hill.
Yep.
We had to just putt around and go back to the
I think
pits.
that even happened to me actually.
Yeah.
We lost the tire on the S's and
On
then
the S's.
just had to putt back.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That is a fun track to drive. That was
Do you
a lot
have
of
an
fun.
in-car video? Camera?
It depends on what tracks, but last year I had almost an in-car video at all every time.
Yeah.
That was when ZZX Digital was helping me, which is Jacob, which is now the FD announcer. So he's kind of stepped away from that, doing stuff for drivers. So I didn't really have an in-car footage for Long Beach, which I wish I did now, but
Yeah.
Heck yeah, for sure.
Well, okay, so we've been tiptoeing around it for 40 minutes here, and I know everybody's probably going nuts. So we're going to ask that big question about judging and all that good stuff from your perspective. And I know you can't go nuts about what just happened, but
for sure.
So Scotty D came. Scotty D gave us one perspective. Hooman came. Hooman gave us his perspective. Our perspective from the fan's point of view. We're going to lay that out. Most of us are drivers. Most of us are into it. We think we know what drifting looks like. We think we know when a guy wins or when a guy doesn't win. So we kind of established that our position was they made drifting too difficult to understand for the regular fan. And they've changed those rules now. This year, right? They've took away some of those rules that made it so hard for us to understand.
Exactly.
Right.
And it should make it more to where we should be able to look and say, hey, that guy won. That's awesome. And then,
For sure.
then something happens and the guy that should have won doesn't. So from a driver's standpoint, where are you now with this whole, the way they judge now, you know?
Well, honestly, I think what they're doing is great. I think trying to get it where, you know, basically I feel like the way they're trying to do is if like you watch a run and you can usually tell by just the overall run, that's how they're kind of doing it, instead of, oh, well, this guy's tire looks like it was straight for 1 second, so we're zeroing him just because of that. I kind of get that. I'm for that. And then obviously they're like, hey, we're going to get rid of one, you know, we're trying to get rid of one more times. We're going to do less one more times. Well, then in my situation, I go 2 one more times. So it's hard to really pick a side on what you think should be. But I will say, though, in the previous years, there's been times I'm like, they made the wrong call for sure, right? And then you get mad, you get upset, and you go up there and you talk to them. And then they're like, yeah, well, what about this part right here? And what people don't understand is that in Pro-Am and stuff, there's not a camera angle on every section of the track.
Right.
And someone able to go watch the replay and slow-mo it. And now we're at a pro level, so any little mistake, you know, that you're not really thinking about, though, you know, it's seen now. Right. So they're going to nitpick it apart. And especially for me, I feel like when I'm going against someone at a higher caliber, maybe, you know, in my eyes, I'm like, hey, they got the bigger sponsor, whatever. You know, they tell you that's not a thing, and that's, you know, may not be. But I know that I have to win by like 30% to get a win, or maybe a one more time or whatever. That's kind of how we calculated it, you know. I mean, like with the James Dean thing, I already knew. I sat in the car, radioed back to my spotter, and was like, hey, they're screwing us. So, you know, we're not going to win. I know. I was like, we're going to be lucky to get the one more time. Yeah. Sure enough, my spotter's like, yep, one more time. I'm like, you know, I already knew. So it does suck sometimes, but there's a lot of times that I thought that I was right, and then I go back, and I'm on the way home, and I'm slow-moing it, and I'm zooming in, and I'm like, all right, maybe they had a call, you know, why I didn't do that. And then there's just been a few incidences, or like few times now, that I'm like, maybe I should have won. Yeah. And I zoom in on it, and I'm like, I don't really know what that's about, you know. And then you ask, and you ask to get an answer, and sometimes you still don't get the answer. You really, you know, like they don't really have a good reason sometimes, you know. Yeah. And but also, we were kind of talking about this. Really though, there hasn't been anyone that's like, with like a really low budget that's kind of came in though, and that's like wowed something against the top guys, you know. It's like, yeah, there's all the other guys are really good, don't get me wrong. But sometimes, like, I feel like some of my battles, like when I go against Osbo or Dean or someone, I like turn it up. Like I'm like, all right. And then sometimes, and that's where I was talking about. Sometimes I'll overdrive, I'll hit them or whatever. But then like this past weekend, like I settled down, I stopped, thought about it, and was like, all right, I just need to do this, and then we could possibly get the win against this, you know. So that's the part that, you know, now I'm like, all right, what's going on here, you know, a little bit, because for me, you know, I go back and watch that run, and I'm like, hey, my lead lap was basically perfect. Hey, that chase lap's not perfect. And then you go to the one more time, and I'm like, hey, that's a straight up battle. That's a one more time. You know, if I lose, I'll lose. I don't, you know, I don't want to be the person that's out complaining, you know, nonstop, because I mean, we got into the sport knowing that's judged. You know, you know that there's this stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully, you know, I keep getting told, well, you're there, man. You're about to, your moment's coming, you know. And I'm like, Well, it needs to hurry up and get here
Yeah.
because, for me to be there, it's a little different. I'm
Yeah.
putting everything I've got
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
thankfully I'm starting to get those sponsors that's helping it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's still not there yet,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
still not. What I've always said is I'm not a professional drifter.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy that drives with professional drifters,
Right,
that
right.
shows
Yeah.
up.
Shows
And there's a
up
lot of
around.
us that are like that,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And my goal is to get there, but my goal is also to put those dudes in the trailer,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Well, and that's where I get that's what rubs me the wrong way. They want the sport to grow.
for
But
sure.
how can the sport grow if the new guy comes into the sport knowing that he's not got a chance to win, no matter how well he does? How is the sport going to grow if
Yeah.
the same 6 guys are on the
Yeah.
in the top 8 every week?
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is too, other people have to think about is like some of those dudes have been there 20 years,
And I
and
get
then
that.
and you're like, man, they are putting down the best laps every time, because they are that good, But then there's just been a few small times that
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe I should have beat them though.
And I get that.
Yeah.
And I watch them and I think most of the time I'm like you. I agree with most of what the judges say. Most of the time I can tell who's going to win one, who's not.
Yep.
But it's just those. It's so
We do not
irritating
agree with that
the,
one.
The one that it's so personal to us because it's you.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the one that we think, man, there's no way that they should give that win to somebody else.
Trust me.
Even if we
And they do.
didn't know you though, like your run was that good. Like I wish you could have been like in the crowd like we were. It was that damn good. So we were just like, this is nuts. This is crazy.
Yeah. I don't know, that part does suck sometimes, But at the same time, I'm going against the 3-time champion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot there.
His
You're
car
going
just
against
caught
an
on
A.
Well-
fire, and his crew worked
well, the
all
thing
night
is
long and
also,
fixed
though-
it, and he's an RTR guy, and he's the
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
yeah.
You know,
that matters.
that's what
what I'm told.
that's what
Yeah.
irritates us.
That's what you're told.
All right, guys, that's another segment. So we're gonna come back to that. We're not gonna leave everybody hanging because we're gonna keep talking about that. But don't go away. We've got more with Cash Racing, Jonathan Cash Hurst. Be right back. Dream realized today, guys. We spent all day today testing drifting at the sinkhole at the NCM, the National Corvette Museum road course. Myself and Wesley Cloud made several tandem runs, several single pass runs, and as far as we can tell, we've stayed underneath their sound ordinance deal. We've simulated runs where we ran a few seconds apart, 30 seconds apart, whatnot, like you do when you're sitting in line. And everybody up here is really happy right now. And let me tell you, we're going to show you some footage here in a minute. This is the best place to drift on the East Coast, bar none. when we do an event up here, be ready, because you're going to get signed up quick. It's going to sell out because there's nothing like it. Coming down that hill, car gets light, grips back up, coming back up that hill, there's no other feeling like it anywhere in the world. It's crazy how good it feels up here. Stay tuned, we're going to get right back with you. Hey guys, we're back. Get Slydewayz with me, Barry Clapp. We got the lovely Ashley in the house, taking Brent's place. Brent has not called yet.
I'm very surprised.
Somebody needs to call
I'm
Brent,
so
I think.
surprised.
Like maybe he's
No
passed.
calls, no messages.
No, nothing.
That's crazy.
Like maybe he's passed out on his couch. Brent, wake up, man. You're missing it. It's the show you've been waiting for, and you're missing it. We have Jonathan Cash Hurst in the house with us.
Woo, woo.
Fresh off of the round one at Long Beach, FormulaD.
Nathan Miller says, I'm still going to tell my grandkids that you beat Dean.
He messaged you that.
Nice,
That's funny.
nice, fantastic. Well, I think we all are because we
Yeah.
all watched it and we all know you did. So
Yeah.
1000%.
I was hoping that hoping that your protest goes the way we all want it to. Because here's how we look at it: we understand the rules a certain way, and we thought that there shouldn't have even been a one more time because your lead run was good and his wasn't.
Yeah.
And we thought that there was supposed to be, both cars had to be a 85 point plus run to even be worthy of a one more time.
For sure.
And he spun on his lead run.
Yep.
But
well,
I
his
guess
car shut off, but I also spun,
so that's what they based it on, I guess. Like that still doesn't seem consistent.
Well, at that point, so I kind of read the rule the same way, and that's where, like, obviously we wanted to try to get the points, try to appeal it, but you can't. The problem is you got to appeal the rule, and in that situation, the rule is more intended if there were two lead runs, period, like two scoreable lead runs. So basically, in that situation, they would just go, who had the better lead and who had the better chase of that. You know, so like, is the chase run as good as the lead run? In that situation, that's how I look at it. And obviously, maybe other people didn't see it that way, because that lead lap was, I will tell people, that was probably the best lead lap I've ever had in my entire life.
It was
and
beautiful.
I've watched it, and I'm like, I don't know. I try to nitpick myself because I want to be better and better. But that lap was it was really good. I don't know. It's tough to swallow.
If you didn't see
go back
it,
and watch it.
If you didn't see it, I do a little Photoshop thing with photos of the new guest and all that stuff, and that's what I used in your picture. I need to make you like a poster of it where you were on the show, because I used your lead run, the picture of you in the second outer zone with the bumper is if it's touching or if it's not, it looks like
For
it
sure.
is. And then it was just perfect. It couldn't have been any better. I don't know how you would have done it any better. It was a beautiful
and
run.
honestly, the car. Everyone's wondering if I had a lot of seat time. Like, I didn't drive the car with the body on the car.
Oh, yeah.
Before that event, so my first lap was Long Beach with the body on it.
Yeah.
And you'll have to sit in it, but I know we all have vet chassis, and that is a vet chassis basically. But the visibility out of that thing, the door height is way different. So like the door comes way up, and so like basically the door is like chin height almost.
No kidding.
So like I barely see over it.
So it's kind of like being like inside of a Camaro.
You're
Yeah,
down-
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kinda-
so you're like
kinda
way
same
down.
concept.
So like everyone has been sitting in it recently, and they're like, "Dude, how do you see?"
How do you see?
So like it was actually whenever we put the body on, and I sat in it, and I was like, "Uh-oh, this isn't good." We're going to Long Beach round one, and I haven't drove the car with the body on it, and it's like this, because like the vet obviously, but I don't know where the bumper is,
Yeah.
and so judging that, when I was driving the car in practice, like my practice was horrible. Like
Well,
I
'cause you
had
were
I had
learning.
I had a few laps though that were like really good, and I was like, all right, we got it. But going into my top 32 battle, I was not confident. Like I was like, all right, well, we had a good show and we're showing a new car, and then my lead lap in top 32, like something clicked.
Nice.
I went out, did my lap, and I'm like, I could put this car wherever, and I can drive it wherever I want to. And I was like, this thing is going to be good. And then when I went and did my chase up, I was like, we got pace now. Like, we're going to be ready to go. And then that's where, actually, when I went against James, I was like, and I spun, I was like, oh, well, that's a poor showing. I don't ever want to go out because of that anymore. I want to go out because of a fair battle. And Then to put the lead lap like that, like I didn't know how good the lead lap was, because I'm in the car. I didn't know if I was really on the wall or not. And then, my spotter's like, yo, like that lap was perfect. And I'm like, I didn't really know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of thought maybe I put the bumper in the wall a little much.
Oh.
I didn't realize that I had didn't even barely nick it. Maybe.
Is there a mark on the wrap?
Oh, there's marks on the wrap now. That's
well,
for
yeah,
sure.
after the next, after that run.
I would probably say there probably wasn't.
It was so close. It was so pretty. It really was pretty.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful run. That was.
What made you pick the Cadillac? How? That's so.
So I had the.
And is that really a Cadillac, or is that your?
No, it is a Cadillac.
That really is a Cadillac.
So I had the C6 streetcar,
yeah.
and I was driving it, and I was like, man, this thing is so good. And then my brother's talking. He's like, he hated the BMW. My brother,
how funny,
hated it, and I honestly, I hated it too. I didn't think the BMW was ugly, but the problem was, I feel like in FD you gotta choose. Either you're gonna pick a really cool car, not be that competitive, or you're gonna pick a car and be competitive.
Yeah.
The E46 is competitive.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Anybody can doubt it, whatever, but it just works. It's cheap. And so that's why I went that route.
There's so many guys running those things.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere.
I run it a couple of years, but after the first year, my brother's like, we're still not really seeing the results. And he's kind of like, we need to get rid of that BMW. He just hated it from the beginning. And he's like, just do a Corvette. You love your Corvette. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do a Corvette. And so that was on a Sunday. And then the next day, I'm eating lunch with my friend Brian, and he's like, hey, an XLR is the same thing as a Corvette. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I just read it. I'm like, nah, So I started looking him up. I'm like, dude, I'm going to do an XLR. I'm just sitting there eating lunch. I'm like, I'm gonna build one of these. And he's like, really? I'm like, yep. I started looking, found one that I thought I was getting scammed on. Him and his brother went and picked it up in Georgia. We got it super cheap. And that was at the beginning of the year. And then of last year, though, in 2023. And I was going to build it through the year. But with my budget, basically you just focus on what you got going on. So the car sat all the way till almost November. So,
wow.
Yeah, the car was built in a few months.
Wow.
So,
holy cow.
But they were just a really cool chassis. Vet chassis, C6 chassis, they're super simple kind of, as far as there's no sheet metal to really cut up and have to fab.
Yeah.
So it works out. So then my brother, through the year though, I do good in the BMW, it's starting to, I was sitting top 10 for most of the season. And so my brother's like, well, maybe the BMW is not a bad idea, And then, but I went ahead, I was going to run the BMW this year again. And something clicked and I was like, you know what? Screw it. We're building it. And then I just pulled the BMW apart one day. I was like, this is it. Started posting parts for sale. They sold instantly. And I was like, ain't no going back. It's time to build it.
Oh, that's rad.
But also, though, what helped the decision was Josiah from FDF was building his pro car, coming out with all this new stuff. Steering rack goes underneath the motor. Helps a lot. My street car steering rack's in front of the pulley.
Yes.
It's a pain.
Yes.
So you don't want that in competition. But with the new setup now, E46 steering rack goes underneath the motor, goes where the lease ring is. Super simple to work on still. And obviously he did his homework because right out of the box, my car, it was fast. I can put it where I want.
No kidding.
It's really good. So, I think that was a big thing because he was kind of talking to me. And he actually didn't know, though, that I was going to build the car for this year. So I was like, hey, man, my car's going to get caged. I need it to be rolling, and they're going to mold the body, so I need the suspension parts to know how my track with. He's like, well, when you try to run the car, I'm like, I'm running this car in a couple months. He's like, oh
shit.
Yeah. So luckily he was able to pull some stuff together and get me things really quick. They were pulling the spare parts that he had for his car that went overseas.
Wow.
So they helped me out a lot. But yeah, it came together really quick. But I think it was a great decision. So the main reason I switched was because the BMW, I look at it, hate it. It's ugly. I don't enjoy. I enjoy to drive it because it's competitive, but I don't enjoy to drive it because I got in a car that I think is good.
Yeah.
Because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And drifting is about having fun and stuff.
Absolutely.
So, and also when I was young, the XLR was cool in a way.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, whenever we were kids, I think it was Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson had it. Ouch.
Yeah.
Alan Jackson had it. And it was in one of his main songs or something, and it was a silver one, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially whenever we were kids, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. So
I was too old.
so seeing you build one, I was like, oh, this is rad.
I remember
it was a
I'm-
core
like
memory.
I remember when that car came out and thinking this is such a strange thing that Cadillac
Yeah.
is basically put a Cadillac body on a
Yeah.
Corvette. But
Yeah.
I thought
Yep.
that's kind of cool. You
Yeah,
know?
well,
I
the
mean,
thing is, the vet chassis is proven.
Yeah.
Like, Matt Field's been top 3 the last
Yeah.
3 years
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And so, obviously, it works.
Yeah.
And now they have the same chassis, but a different look. I think it was just, like, perfect. I was like, cool. I can compromise the look, or I can have the look, and also have the performance without sacrificing anything.
I
So,
love that. So
I think
like,
it's perfect.
the body that they made. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Andrew at Rice Fab, he just molded. I got the car with factory panels.
Mm-hmm.
He just hand molded them, extended them out. We kind of went off like more of like a Z06 look for now.
Mm-hmm.
We may change it up later, and then
What is it made out of?
it's they're carbon fiber.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
So the whole body's carbon besides like the doors and bumpers right now. We'll
Oh, wow.
eventually do that, but
It's got
I mean,
factory bumper,
he-
factory style bumper,
Yeah,
and then
but for now-
is the door skin like the
it's factory door.
skin? Okay,
Yeah,
Oh,
right
wow.
now it's factory
Yeah.
door, factory door, factory bumper.
gotcha.
Wow.
Just because honestly, money and
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he was the fact he even got the body done that quick. Was
Yeah.
and it was on me. He was holding. I gave him a tight window because of me.
Yeah.
I was waiting on some sponsor money and was
Yeah.
like, hey man, like I know the biggest deal on switching to that car was. The biggest hurdle was the body.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we gotta spend a lot of money to make the body.
Yeah.
No one makes it. The headlights and taillights are like $5,000 used.
Oof.
So
Blech.
that's why we. There's a dude named Andy that reached out. He 3D printed the headlight covers and taillight covers, and we're working on that stuff to make them look a little bit better. But that was the biggest drawback to the car. But I was like, it's worth it. Spending the money on it to be different, and I was like, it's gonna be worth it. And round one, man, the amount of people that like came up and loved it and
I
stuff.
guarantee
Yeah.
it.
It's worked out so good. So I'm
guarantee
glad that I went ahead and I went through a lot to build that car that quick. I stayed up so many hours. I lost the fender on the interstate. So like
I saw that post you put up.
there's just a
Where you
lot
went
of
back
things
and
that
found
happen.
it, though.
Yeah.
It's great in marketing too.
Yeah, well, when I did lose that fender on the interstate, someone was like, well, just get another one. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
I can't.
That's a one of one fender.
Yeah.
And it just got wrapped. I was like, there is no
There's-
replacing that in a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not one out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Andrew
Yeah.
finished the body that day or on a Wednesday,
Yeah.
and it got wrapped on a Thursday. So I came there Wednesday. We mounted the body, which we had to do a bunch of trimming and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I stayed there the entire day till like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Got to Louis at like 5:30 in the morning, and I stayed. He was like, sleep in the truck while we do this, and then it worked out.
Well, it's beautiful. They
Yeah.
did a great
Oh,
job. Both of those
absolutely.
guys. The
Yes.
body did a great job.
Yeah.
Louis did a great job as
For sure.
usual. It looks beautiful. It's fantastic.
I did have a comment from sharing the post from earlier that people are asking where the Caddy Daddy merch is.
Yeah,
So-
no, a lot of people have been asking. It's funny that
Caddy Daddy.
that Jared
Daddy.
said that, and then now people are taking off with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
I mean,
we're
you
working
can
with a
use
company
it.
called Tuner Society in Canada. And they're going to be getting they did some merch for Long Beach, but
Okay.
not to sell, or not for me to sell at the event. But Atlanta will definitely have some stuff. So
Rad.
That's cool.
yeah,
We'll-
definitely needing to step up my end of that stuff. now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I need a hat, so I'm a hat guy.
Yeah.
So I need a hat as
For
soon
sure.
as you can get me one. I gotta
Yeah.
have a hat,
Absolutely.
Especially
that.
now with the Cadillac, like it's a thing now.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just so unique. Is it the only Cadillac in FD?
Yeah, it is right
Yeah.
now. Taylor did have the ATSV a while back.
I remember that. The
Um,
4-door. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, for now though, it's the only Cadillac at the moment.
Because
and-
he's gone back to the vet.
yeah, he's at vet chassis now.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
C6.
Yeah, C6. That's right. The blue and yellow, the old
Yep.
Earnhardt scheme.
Yep.
He's an Earnhardt fan, so
For sure.
He likes to do those old looks like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that is really rad.
So you were there at Long,
Long
Beach,
Beach, yeah.
being the old umbrella girl and all
I
of that good
was.
stuff, and you were there right there in the middle of it when
Right in the
all
middle.
all that went down with
Yeah.
James and all that stuff. So my take on the whole thing was like that first run, everybody knew that there should not have been a one more time. So when you ran the one more time, what's going through your head now that you've kind of thinking, man, I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, were you mad? Were you mad?
Yeah,
Well,
like
so at first I wasn't, and then my spotter was like really mad.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, usually he doesn't get that mad.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, man,
I need to be
like,
mad
yeah,
too.
I was like, okay, I wonder. So like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, and then everyone's messaging me. So I pull my phone out and looking. I'm like, watching. I'm like, man, why did that go one more time?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, pretty mad. And then Lorette walks up to do the interview, and she's like, calming me down though. She's like, hey, you got
a
this,
breather.
yeah, take a breather, which was really good because. For my sponsors, for everybody, just as me, like I'm not a person that's going to go out there and dog on someone else, especially. And it's funny because a lot of people are like blaming James or RTR, and I'm like, dude, we are the team. We don't have anything to do with the call.
Yeah.
And those guys are just doing the best they can at the same time. So.
And that
It
team
just is
did
what
a
it is.
phenomenal job
Yeah,
that weekend
absolutely.
to bring him back from that fire
For sure.
and all that stuff. That was a phenomenal job they did. They probably didn't go to sleep all
No,
night.
there's no way.
To
It
rebuild
was really
that
cool
car.
to see the car like after it was
Yeah.
fixed. Like it was still like charred.
Yeah.
It was really cool to
That-
see.
it's
I'm not
insane.
gonna lie.
Yeah, James has
nuts.
went through a lot. Riding the roof last round and then to a fire.
That's right.
Like props to those guys. For sure.
Yeah.
But-
Well, and that's why we don't. That's why we want to make everybody clear that we're not mad at anybody.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
mad at the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad for you.
Mad at the call.
Not mad. Yeah, mad at the call. Mad
Yeah.
for you. We're your fans. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? We want you to do well. So we're not. No, I mean we love James Dean too. It's awesome what he's been able to do
absolutely.
for FormulaD.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we need more drivers like him to come. So it's not that we're mad about that. We're just, man alive, what's it take to get a win?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Trust me. Like I personally feel that there's been like an incident each year that I'm like, why?
Yeah.
So it just, I get it. And so I don't know. I get really upset too, but
Yeah.
I try to calm down about it. And then that interview went well. I was just who I was and tried to be humble about it. And I was like, at the line, I was like, all right, I'm not going to spin out this time.
Yeah.
And I, in my head though, I'm like, man, do we have pace do we have pace? Like in practice, I didn't have any chase laps that were good. I messed up every single one of them. So I have no idea if I'm going to have pace with them, but I do know, well, also I'm asking my spotter like, hey, like, do I put it in his, like, do I try to like actually touch him? And he's like, no, just don't leave it in the judge's hand. I'm like, okay. And like, so he's talking me out of, trying to do something dumb. And so I was like, okay. And when I did my lap, I was like, man, it was a really good lap, but I also didn't feel that confident in that lap. Like it wasn't as good as it could have been. So like I left some on the table. And then my lead run though, I was just like, I didn't even think about it. Calm, just sat there, deep breaths. And I don't know, this year feels a little different for me. I don't know. Before, I was really, like gun hold to do whatever and go too far with it. Now I'm like, I don't know, something's kind of like changed in my
You've
head.
also got like a fan base now too, so you've got people expecting more out of you.
Yeah, I don't really
You
look
know.
at that. Like, those fans ain't doing the work for me to get there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, it's really hard work for me to be there.
Yeah.
And so, when I pull up to the line, I'm personally like, man, I run all the scenarios through my head. Like, man, I've spent all this money. I'm here. I don't want to go in this trailer.
Yeah.
What happens if I do beat James? Like, is everyone going to go? Like, so I'm, like, putting all those perspectives, and I'm like, all right, I just need to do the best lap that I can possibly do. And whatever happens past that, like, you can't change it. So that's just, I don't know, I've had a different mindset this year. Before it's like, all right, I'm gonna hit them, I'm gonna make the fans like, be this super aggressive driver, and now I'm like dialing it back just a hair. And hopefully it works out for me the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But I still am gonna, get where as close as I can, but it's just not try to leave it in the judges' hands.
Yeah.
That's big. I see that. That's big. I was just thinking about old man moment here. I had a great thought a minute ago, and it's already gone, so I completely lost it. I had something really good to talk about, too. Man, I'll have to think about that.
Well, what's helped, too, is, like, this year we came to 2 of your events.
Yeah?
Just seat time events,
Yeah.
And my spotter now can drive. And so, basically, I'll push him around the whole track. And, like, I mean, do as close as I can. It's helped me so much, I feel like, on getting timing down and being as close as you can. Like, people will go for rides that other drivers, and they're like, what, you're so close, like, on the run-up. I'm like, Well, if you're not
That's
close
what
on
you
the
gotta
run up, then you're leaving a little bit of room at all times.
That's what we talked about last week was you're tapping, like you're great at it compared to all the other drivers. It's crazy.
Yep, you don't run over the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
Hint over there. You don't crash into the guy in front of you. You just touch him. You just bump on him. You just let him know you're there.
You know,
Little love
someone
tap.
made a post not so long ago. They're like, something about getting doors like with your friends, and they're like, is it getting doors or are you crashing? Like, there's a point,
Yeah.
There's sometimes I'm like, man, I hit that guy maybe a little too hard for fun, and it's like, you need to be better than that. You need, it's cool if you tap a little bit, but when you're like denting someone else's stuff pretty bad, like when I hit Napier's car, I felt bad because it creamed the whole side, and then so I go back and rewatch. I'm like, maybe he made a mistake.
I love it. So don't make a mistake when you're in front of Cash Racing.
You just gotta go faster.
He is gonna be tight. He is gonna be on your.
Oh, don't
that's
say
right.
that.
No, that's our whole thing for Human. You got to go faster.
Just gotta go faster.
That's another 20 minutes, guys. That's another segment. So we will be right back. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Cash Racing. All right, guys, welcome back. Hey, Brent, if you're not watching, man, you're missing it. We're talking about you on every gap.
Oh, he's here?
He's here finally?
Aww.
All right, welcome in, man. We were afraid you'd passed out and died on the couch on us, man. So welcome in. We're glad to have you.
He says, have we talked judging?
We have talked
we're way
judging.
past that, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, but we said everything you wanted us to say and then some. So fire away with a question or two, and we'll throw that in there because we're not done. We've still got a ways to go. I got to take just a second to talk about Andy Snap at Overkill Auto Garage. Our boy Andy is our sponsor here for tonight's show. He does all kinds of stereo work. He does really cool looking custom boxes and all that. He does stereos. He does stuff with like acrylic. He's got little laser cutters and all that. He does those custom headlights that you see. Yeah. That's who we need to get after you to be able to do the headlights on the Cadillac. Maybe. Because he could like put some, I don't know, some stormtroopers in there shooting at each other or something in there.
Just your little logo.
Yeah, and all the cool little lasers going all over the place and all that. So, but anyway, anything that you guys need, stereo-wise or custom lighting-wise, hit our boy Andy at Overkill. He'll do you a good job. He's down in Murfreesboro. Look him up on Facebook and online, all that good stuff. Overkill Auto Garage. Does just a phenomenal job. Very creative cat, and he wears a mohawk too, so he's a good little dude. Yeah, he used to come in our shop all the time, and man, when he would first start coming into the shop, he talks so fast. You've really got to be listening when he comes in. And we'd be like, oh, man, when he pull in the driveway, here he comes again, like that. But he's been around so long that we love that little dude. Yeah. He comes in all the time, and so we really get excited to see him. We've wrapped a couple of cars for him. We're about to do another one. He's built a Caprice wagon.
Oh, how cool.
That is full of stereo, the whole back of it. It's the bubble rack, the round one. Yeah. And it was just an old crappy old champagne-colored deal with the wood grain. Yeah. So he's had it like shot satin black. Oh, how pretty. And we're going to do like a black smoke wood grain down the side of it and make it really
that'll be cool.
That'll look cool.
It'll
really
be cool looking. So be on the lookout for that. So
Brandt's got a few more comments.
I'm sure he does.
One, he wants to call in so bad.
He wants to call in. Well, let's see.
We'll just give him Cash's number, and then he can just call him on his own.
Yeah, don't give out Cash's number.
Hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Tell him to call. Tell him to call my cell phone, and we'll put my phone up to the microphone so he can ask you a question. He's jumping up and down. So before he does that, or he'll probably call right now, I thought of what I had experienced with my old man moment there a little while ago. I wanted to talk about the spotter. What does I'm from the round track world. I know what a spotter does in round track racing. What does a spotter tell you? What goes on inside your headset with your spotter?
Where does he even sit?
So they have a designated spot for them to all be.
Yeah.
You can choose to not be there though, but during like a competition, like say if something happens to my car and I need, like a tow or whatever, he could, if he's not near there, that's not good. So usually he'll be up in the spotter stand, so he can tell the race director or whatever something's going on, or hey, we need to call 5 or whatever. But no, I mean a spotter is super important. For a long time I thought it wasn't a big deal, and then until you get to a point where you're like, man, I wish I would have known that. I would have done this differently. There's still times though now that I'm like, I don't need the earpiece, and I'm like, I chase first, so I already know I got to go as hard as I can, and that's all there is to it. But I do think it's super important. He can tell you what they might have missed or what, they did or didn't do that you can capitalize on the next run.
All right, here we go. Mr. Brent Brooks calling in. I'm going to put him on speaker here. Let me answer this. Put him on speaker. Hey, buddy, you got us?
Yeah, how are you guys?
We're good. How you feeling, man?
Well, the internals are staying inside, so that's a good sign.
That's better than it was yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot better.
So we've been talking about you and Cash. We've told him all about you. So we've told him you're his biggest fan. So lay into him here. Give him a good question or two.
All right. So the very first question I got to ask is, will he hire me as his judging anger management interpreter? Because somebody needs to get up there and yell.
That's going to be a no, man.
I think this is. I definitely don't think you're the guy for this job.
And the second question is, he knows he beat James Dean, doesn't he?
Well, I've heard that a couple times.
Dude, that car was on rails. It should have been. There should have never been the first one more time. But then when the second one came and it looked exactly the same, you still killed it. You were even tighter on him than he was on you, and they still do it one more time. It just it confirms my conspiracy theory. You're an independent. You ain't gonna win. It makes me so mad for you.
Well, I appreciate that.
We've talked about that for 6 or 7 of our. What are we on episode 9?
Yeah, basically
6 or 7 times during our show.
We were really hot last week.
Brent, we appreciate the call. We're going to get back to it here, man.
Bye.
Feel better, okay?
All right, man. Thanks for having me. See ya.
Thank you.
So, for 6 or 7 of our 9 lowly episodes that we've done here on Get Slydewayz, we've literally talked about you and because you're our guy. You're our hometown guy. We love that you're having so much success, almost success. You should be having more than you are having. And it's just irritating to all of us that you're to the point where you're like, man, come on.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's going to come, though, soon.
Yeah,
So.
it has to. How can it not?
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, if Formula D wants to continue to grow, they're going to have to let guys like you break in.
Yeah.
Because it can't just be the James Deans of the world that come rolling in with lots of money
For sure.
and lots of backing.
The problem is it can be.
Or the Daigo Saitos of the year. They come in for 2 years, win everything, and then leave.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, we kind of forget that there's still a lot of other drivers that are very good that aren't in FD just because of budget and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I probably shouldn't even be there. I mean, my budget's not good.
Yeah.
The amount of work I go through, stress and sacrifices. I mean, it's tough. So
But
I just think
skill
I'm
is.
just trying to push through a little bit longer, and I think it's gonna be worth it. So I'm really close. I'm right there at the tip. I think of just going over the edge to be able to maybe get some of these calls or whatever, but at the same time, like, it's still in my hands. I still got to perform at the best that I can.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, like the goal for the next step, would the next step for you to be to get sponsors and to keep your own thing going, or what if if RTR called up and said, hey, so-and-so's not working out, you want to come drive on these Mustangs, what happens?
Yeah, so that's kind of been of a talk. A lot of people don't know that I wanted to, for a little while, I was like, man, RTR is the best team. I want to go drive for them, or or Papadakis. They're both those teams are up there. And then it kind of got turned down a little bit. Which, of course, I'm not a person that has anything that can compare to the current drivers. You know what I mean? Like social media, all that stuff matters. So really what I kind of want to do is I want to continue doing what I'm doing, and I want to grow my team, and I want to do it with my friends. Osoli and them have helped me a lot too. I've teamed up with Human in the past too. So like I've kind of done everything I can, working up, teamed up with people and stuff. But right now I just want to really work on my brand and kind of just do as best as I can for, my team. I've had my friends helping me for a long time.
I love that.
And they've sacrificed a lot too. Yeah. So I think for them and just for myself, we're just going to try and do the best we can and just have a better presentation, pit presentation, car presentation. In the past, even though this past weekend I showed up with no fender on one side, and I really hated that actually. Before,
did you really?
Before I would be like, oh, you know what? I'm on the line. Who cares what the car looks like? But now I'm kind of getting to more like, hey, these companies are, giving some money. They deserve to be on that fender, and I want to do the best I can for every company that's helping me, every friend that's helping me.
It looked really aggressive though.
Yeah, so I just want to be more professional.
Yeah.
And I think with that will come more people wanting to be a part of my program,
I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, that's exactly right. So
But in the past, in Pro 2, I was driving an open trailer,
Yeah.
The one event I won at was on an open trailer, so, which, is cool. A lot of people like it.
Yeah.
But the big companies and stuff that are going to write those checks probably ain't going to put their money there.
They need that exposure rolling down the interstate, too.
Yep.
They need that big
Absolutely.
enclosed trailer with that big
absolutely.
wrap on it and all that sexiness. Yeah.
But you know what? That's part of my journey. Like, that's
Yeah.
been me, and I did it. I'm just doing what I can do. And however I'm going to get to the track, I'm going to get to the track.
Yeah.
1 year we even talked about that I was going to drive the car there. My team was like, you're crazy. I'm like, hey, if we can get one of the other guys to haul my wheels and tires, I was like, I'll just drive it. And that was to California, so that's 30 hours.
Oh my God.
And I was like, man, if you think about it, 10-gallon cells, like have a couple, jugs in the car, put a 93 tune in. I was like, I'll drive her there.
Oh my
So,
God.
Dude, if you did a video road trip,
Yeah,
that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe if it would make it.
Yeah, if it would get there.
And I think that's the year I went and did one lap and it actually blew up. So it would not have been really good.
No, it wouldn't have.
blow up in Texas somewhere halfway.
Oh my
and then
God.
have to tow that mother back
Oklahoma,
home.
where it's just nothing.
Yeah, that might not be.
No,
right.
I don't know. I have a different perspective on that. You blow up a motor, just fix it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, but wherever you're at, it's doable.
Well,
it's
you've
not
done
like
it
a
so
hard
many
part
times
out
now,
of a, if you don't have a rod out the block or something,
Yeah,
and it's repairable.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, you'll probably do it.
yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we got our little Brent deal there through us. So let's get back to the spotter thing. So when I drove round track, the spotter is very important during the race. Like once the green flag drops is when his work really starts.
Yep.
Telling you what's going on around you. You say you don't do that in drifting. Once you leave the line, the spotter's got to zip it and let you do your thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on my team, that's how we do it. I don't know if the other guys talk a little bit during their runs or not, but I know for sure we're not. My spotter knows not to do that.
Sure.
Don't be talking to me.
But honestly, they have a lot bigger job than that. Just that.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
I think practice is one of the biggest things. My guy will write notes down. Get lap times, get where people are faster or slower in this section, what they do, how they initiate. Initiation's huge on knowing when you go against a guy, are they going to do a big flick or not? So that stuff really does matter. And what's cool now though about FD changing the way they're doing it is now my spotter only has to really do notes on 16 people. But then once if we make it to the finals, we might not have notes on the guy that won, but we could probably get a few notes from the last battle or something.
Yeah.
But then so now it's not even 16 drivers now. You're really kind of having to do notes on 8 maybe because you're on that part of the bracket, So.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And now,
you don't
I already
have to
know
worry
who
about the whole field, just where you
I already know who I'm going against.
You know where you're seeing
in Atlanta now. So cool. We just need to have all the notes on that driver in practice, and then, and try to do the best we can.
That
for
does
that.
make sense. Yeah.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a positive to the stuff. And also, qualifying was probably boring to watch for a lot of people. I think the bracket style is cool, the seating bracket. But I haven't been on that side of it yet, so I think it's cool for now. If we ever get put in that position where we're in a seating bracket, we might not think it's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because the kid,
that was so cool.
Yeah, he won his way into the 16.
Yeah. Well, you only have to win one battle in the seeding 16 to get into the show for the next day. But I mean, those guys are having to go through 3 or 4 battles, and then you're just now getting into the main show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
I
don't know. I kind of think that some things are going to start playing a role in that, though, where maybe if someone that's good and kind of knows about their equipment and stuff, they might get in, win the first battle, and then they may lay back and just, or not even show up to the line for the next because they're already in. They don't, you're only fighting for the last 8 spots.
Put themselves in the bracket where they want to be.
Yeah. So we haven't seen that yet.
Interesting.
So, I don't think people are going to really want to throw down too hard after knowing that you got it. You're not. It doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Once you're in, you're in. It doesn't matter after that. So, like, you're not winning money for winning the seating bracket or nothing. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So why put your equipment or risk, especially Long Beach,
sure,
total a car out
risk
or something
going in the wall,
before the main show even happens.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm kind of curious how that might play out, at the future rounds where, back a couple of years ago when it didn't matter for qualifying points, that Vaughn and Chelsea, and Arundel that one year they went and did bad on their runs to try to qualify worse, to try to put Oswald out early to win the championship. And which was really cool, except for there was 8 drivers that zeroed, so their bad scores didn't matter.
Dang.
It got them in the show,
Yeah.
But I think that's where you can kind of play a little bit with the, being able to do that. I think it's kind of interesting, though.
That is kind of cool because I actually hadn't thought about that aspect of it, because you could, if you're already in the show, you could snowbird or sandbag a little bit and not qualify up in the middle where you go against somebody that's just as good as you are.
Yep.
Maybe you could take it a little easy and go against a little lesser opponent.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think you're playing a fine line. You don't know who you're going to really go against by doing that, but it could help you if you think your car can't work, if you don't want to put the extra stress through the car or something like that,
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I hope that doesn't happen, though, because if it does, then your show isn't going to be as good and that's what they're wanting, is a better show.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, kind of like the knockout qualifying that NASCAR tried to do for a little while on the super speedways. They started, instead of having single runs, they started putting everybody out there together and doing basically a drafting practice for the qualifying until they wadded up a bunch of them in qualifying and decided that wasn't a good idea. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
That was really dumb.
Awesome. So your spotter, he'll take notes and say, hey, you're going against so-and-so, and he likes to go deep into this zone, and he likes to e-brake here, and he likes to this, that, and the other.
Exactly.
So you can be prepared on that chase run.
Exactly. Yeah, because obviously we're trying to be as close as we can.
Yeah.
Any little hiccup, But that's what I was saying, though. The judges, they see that little hiccup now,
Yeah.
That's what I think that was the biggest learning curve from going from Pro-Am up into Pro 2 was there's a replay.
Yeah.
And they can slow it down as much as they want. So you think your run was good, and it might not have been as good as you thought.
Well, but now the new rules, they don't zero for that little stuff anymore. So does that change?
But if you have a good lead lap and then the other guy bobbled here or there, then they could start nitpicking it. If they, it just kind of depends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was definitely when we came from Pro-Am, what I thought was an awesome run. Well, then we come into Pro 2, and I'm like, man, that was a heck of a run, And then I go back and watch, and I'm able to go back on YouTube and watch. I'm like, man, that wasn't such a good run,
It's crazy to think about. That's the same way at every level. I remember Brent telling his little story about the first time he drifted anything, and it was that old IROC Z Camaro, and he's out there sliding around, and he thought, man, I'm so sideways, it's awesome. And then he looked at the pictures, and it was just barely yawed out at all. No smoke coming off the tires.
Now we're kind of at a level, too, that I was upset with my lead run against James in the one more time because I was like, dude, I left a few inches off the wall.
Wow.
And now I'm like, man, I could have been closer, So it's now you're trying to really perfect it, It's just a lot different when you make the jump a little bit, Pro-Am, you don't have those replays and stuff, but it's it's a lot of money to come into Pro 2
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
and then it's a learning curve. I think those guys need to understand, as well, like when they're coming up, like there's a lot of eyes on everything,
So budget-wise, you're talking about. So what's the difference in the jump from Pro 2 to Pro 1? Is there a big deal on that?
Yeah.
Is it tires? What's the biggest difference on that deal?
Well, from like an outsider looking in, they're probably thinking, oh, well, you're getting free tires. You're getting all this stuff for free, right? And that's not the case.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's a big deal, actually. Pro Spec or Pro 2, whatever, Pro Spec, I mean, they're having to pay for their tires.
Mhm.
No matter what, it's a set price. And that's expensive.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
you think that,
told us
you're
a
going to
little
come
about
to Pro 1, you think, oh, well, now I've made it. I'm going to get free tires. The first year I came in, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to buy tires.
Wow.
So
Why?
because there's only so many tire companies, well, at the time that was Falcon, Nitto, and
Yep.
Nexen and stuff. Well, Nexen wasn't taking on any more drivers. Falcon wasn't taking on any more drivers.
Oh,
Nitto's not taking
yeah.
on any more drivers. Well, then, I had to take Federal, at that time. And so all the other guys, there's also like 8 to 10 of us that are all fighting to get those
Yeah.
last few tires deals, And so what ends up happening is you end up having to buy the tires. And when you have to pay for tires and you got, 8 rounds,
Yeah.
and you're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I would skip practice. Like in Pro 2, I literally showed up. Back in the day, we had Zena tires.
Mm-hmm.
I would run those in practice until the official practice because that's when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would run the competition tires. And it would mess me up because
Yeah.
the Achilles tires back then, those things were so good but I wasn't used to driving on them.
Yeah.
But it's just what I had to do
Yeah.
because my budget wasn't there and I couldn't just buy a bunch of tires, And then making the jump up, like I was thinking I was going to get a tire deal. Didn't get a tire deal. So you're just working, doing the best you can to get what tires you can.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
it's been tough the last few years. And then last year, last minute, I think like 2 weeks before the event, I locked in like my first tire deal with Vitor tires, and I couldn't thank them enough. And then came into this year and locked in like a last minute deal with Kenda, so and super thankful for those guys to be able to believe in me, and the tire works, it's good, and I'm pumped on this year to have a legit deal, for once.
Nice.
They're really nice too.
It's
Nice.
it's
That's
just
cool.
tough,
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of other dudes out on grid that are struggling right now, and
Yeah.
I've been struggling for a while, so I know how they feel, and
Yeah.
it's just not a oh, you showed up to Pro 1, you get free tire deal, and I
Ain't
feel
like
like that kind of should be the thing, though. I think once you make it that far, there should be enough companies and that give
Yeah.
enough guys, free tires at least, but it's not the case.
Is it hard to get sponsors on such a high level?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it depends.
It's
I mean,
like
I'm
you got
just
40 dudes.
curious.
and go karts.
You got 40 dudes going for
Yeah.
the
Do you
same like
think
little
it's
thing.
Do you think it's based off of like your personality?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, social media, personality,
Hmm.
and that social media comes with the personality, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Adam. He
Yeah.
has more fans for wanting to get autographs than
Which is crazy.
the top driver,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
at the event.
That's
So
crazy.
it all matters though.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and that's
crazy.
something that we're trying to improve on. Like,
Yeah.
trying to improve my social media, trying to improve on a lot of other things outside of just the driving.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to improve on that ourselves. So go and hit like, hit follow, hit send, hit all that stuff.
Hey, you forgot subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe. That's a good word. See, I need a little
Subscribe
note
to our
card because
YouTube.
I'm no good at this stuff. We're learning as we go too. We're trying to get ourselves out there. That's one more segment, guys. We're going to take one more little break. We're going to come back with our final segment with Mr. Cash and Miss Ashley. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go nowhere. Dream realized today, guys. We spent all day today testing drifting at the sinkhole at the NCM, the National Corvette Museum road course. Myself and Wesley Cloud made several tandem runs, several single pass runs, and as far as we can tell, we've stayed underneath their sound ordinance deal. We've simulated runs where we ran a few seconds apart, 30 seconds apart, whatnot, like you do when you're sitting in line. And everybody up here is really happy right now. And let me tell you, we're going to show you some footage here in a minute. This is the best place to drift on the East Coast, bar none. we do an event up here, be ready, because you're going to get signed up quick. It's going to sell out because there's nothing like it. Coming down that hill, a car gets light, rips back up, coming back up that hill, there's no other feeling like it anywhere in the world. It's crazy how good it feels up here. Stay tuned, we're going to get right back with you. All right, guys, we're back. The final segment tonight. Man, we've had a great night. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, because we've really enjoyed talking to Jonathan. This has been a great evening. We've got a lot of great insight. We've gushed all over you, man. we love you. We want you to do well. So yeah, you're such a humble guy, and we love that you're like that. That you're not, oh, I'm Mr. And I should be winning, like that. I love that you've basically justified almost every call. There's the one that's standing out now is the most recent one, and there's no justification for it. They're going to just have to give you a win. And I can't wait to hear the roof come off that place, wherever it does. Hopefully it's here in a couple of weeks in Atlanta.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, at least get you into the like the round of 16 is as far as you've been. Have you been into a round of 8?
I made it to 4 last year.
You've been to all the way to 4.
Yep, and
we got to get you on a podium
in Long Beach last year.
Long Beach last year,
I made it to 4.
You got to the final 4.
Yeah, close to getting that trophy.
Man,
very close.
Man, we got to get you on the podium, man.
That's what my goal is.
We're gonna be screaming. You'll probably be able to hear us over your motor. We're going to be screaming.
All he's going to hear is pop, 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 pop,
yeah,
pop.
Yeah, all he's going to hear is AR-15 cracking in the background. That's what that thing sounds like. It's awesome. It's awesome. Man alive. So when you get that podium, you're going to get it. It's coming.
No, yeah. I'm not stopping until I do.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
You're going to get that coat. You're going to get that cup. You're going to get on that podium. And then the sponsors are going to come, because they're gonna then see that you're worthy. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. Mm-hmm. Like you said, we were talking about it off air a little bit, that if I was a company and I wanted to sponsor a driver, of course I want to sponsor a driver that's winning. But you got there. You're about to be there. Mm-hmm. You've got the other drivers in your corner you're talking about. They all know it's coming. Eventually the judges are going to have to let you win something. They're going to have to see that you're, and I said that wrong, not let. They're going to have to give you what you've earned because you've earned it. Mm-hmm. You're not just a guy that's just showing up and doing it halfway.
Yeah.
You're giving it everything you've got.
Yeah.
And the runs are starting to show it. The cars are starting to show it. The talent's there. You just got to get that one judge to say, nah, let's go ahead and give it to him this time, because he's earned it.
There's a lot to piece together.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's been a long time coming, and a lot of pieces are starting to fall into place. So, but they're not just falling into place. I guess they're being put into place. Yeah. It's taking a lot of work, and that's the way I look at things, is that none of it's going to happen unless you do it.
Well, and you don't want it given to you.
Oh, it's not. So
it's never going to be, and you don't want that anyway.
Yeah,
you want to earn it.
For sure.
You want to earn it.
For sure.
So you still like coming here and going to our local events. Is that a seat time thing, or is that just because you just friggin' love to drive?
I like to drive, and it's just good fun. My friend, now a lot of my friends that have been helping me for so long, that have been putting in their work, their sweat, to help me get to where I am, now they're starting to drive more, and it's cool to be able to drive with those guys, help them out when I can, and and just drive with random people. And it's cool to see the other people that are, coming up in Pro-Am. Like, I want to drive with all those guys. If I can help them, I want to help them. Yeah. Just help grow the sport as best we can, and just have fun. I mean, obviously seat time. I think seat time has been huge. I think I've gotten probably 100 laps in just your two events. My car doesn't shut off at those events.
Yeah, you don't ever.
Luckily, my Corvette's done good, so it just stays running.
Yeah.
And I go through literally a full tank of gas every one of those events. I've had to go to the gas station once and put more gas in it,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's helped a lot, for sure, with the Cadillac being similar car.
Yeah.
So, but it's just a lot of fun driving with everybody, especially with people that, like, when you bring up Brent, like, I've known him for so long, and I still am driving with him,
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like, he looks at me differently, like I can't drive with him because he thinks I'm going to hit his car or something. But No,
Brent doesn't like getting a scratch on the
no,
car. I'll tell
but
you
I
that.
got
He doesn't like
close.
that. Did you?
I actually need to send him a video because I didn't mean to get as close, but I got pretty close to him on one lap.
I bet it scared the shit out of him.
Heck, we'll fix it if you scratch it up. That's no big deal. I know a good rap guy.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
We'll
I
make
know a
it,
guy.
We'll make it fix it up. That's no problem.
for sure.
That's awesome. So, are we ever going to get to see the Caddy out at one of our local
Oh, absolutely.
events?
yeah.
I tried. I think driving your pro car as much as you can is a
Yeah.
huge plus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I'm probably gonna take it to Clarksville one weekend. Even though I always say, no offense to those guys, I'm like the last place I want to take my pro car is to Clarksville, but maybe stay out of some of the trains.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been involved in a couple of those, so
Yeah.
that's where things get a little sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
the last train I ran, I'm still paying for it. I'm
Yeah, but
I'm
we
still
know-
fixing a quarter pound.
Yeah, that's Louis though.
Well, but
Yeah,
Louis. Louis.
yeah.
I think it hurt his car more than it did mine, so I can at least sleep good knowing that. But he did make me peel my wrap off, so maybe there was like an ulterior motive. My poor little car's naked over there right now, so
It is.
we'll bust out a new look on him here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I got to fix the quarter panel first. That wasn't his fault, man. I don't think. I mean, it was a 4-car train, and he was
Well,
the
we're
fourth
blaming
car.
him.
Okay, so
blaming
we'll
him.
blame him then.
He
It
was the last
your
car.
fault.
Yeah,
He
last
was the
car.
last car. So yeah, it was bad. It was all right though. As long as it hurt his more than it did mine, we'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be all right. So we've got like 15 minutes left. It's been a great night. So let's talk about your sponsors, the guys that are helping you now, what kind of deals you've got, and maybe what kind of deals are cooking. Is there anything on the horizon for Cash Racing?
Honestly, I had a buddy, Brad, and another guy, the gear wrench guy, that came over to my shop and kind of sparked the Mr. Cool thing, because they were only like 10 minutes from my house. So it's really cool that Mr. Cool stepped up. There's another guy, Zach Fulcher, that drag races, that was sponsored on Mr. Cool. He's local, and the owners of Mr. Cool just want to help out local people, and they're
Nice.
super
That's
nice
super
people, and they try to do a lot of things for like kids and schools and stuff like that. So they're just a really good group of people, and happy to represent represent those guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't thank Mr. Cool for coming on board. Honestly, probably changed a lot. Thanks to the guys that helped me get Mr. Cool. And then obviously just there's a lot of companies that are helping me with parts, and Kenda Tire, helping with tires and stuff like that. But a lot of the biggest thing is like my friends, that and family, like my brother and stuff. My brother used to go to some events and help me, so he's taking time away. A lot of my friends though that are on my crew, they're they're leaving their job
Yeah.
Yeah.
to come, help me on a weekend
Yeah.
to help me succeed. And I just think right now, I'm getting like moments of my life that I'm like thinking about how important time is, and it's crazy to me that there are these other people out there spending their time to come and help me
Yeah.
do something that doesn't even it doesn't necessarily do something for their life. Like
Right.
it does and it doesn't. Yeah, they may enjoy it, but at the same time, like in return, they're losing money. But they get an experience to go and travel. But what is that experience really worth? You know what I mean? So obviously, some of them get paid, and some of them, are there to help out. But I'm trying to, my goal is that we're gonna make it big enough where those dudes are getting paid, they're enjoying it, and
Yeah.
it's it is worth it for them.
Yeah.
That's what my goal is to do with my whole program.
Yeah. Well, they're building memories too, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
For
it's
sure.
going to mean as much. It's going to mean almost as much to them when you do hit that podium, and they
Yeah.
get to erupt into that cheer
Yeah.
and all of that stuff too. It won't be just you, man.
Yeah.
You won't be the only
No,
one.
no, for sure.
You won't be the only one with a tear in your eye when we see
Oh,
you
for
up there
sure.
on the podium.
Well, it was
For
funny
sure.
because I did Super Drift, and I couldn't afford my crew to be there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of with Connor, and kind of was hoping that Connor's guy could come and help me, if we weren't battling each other. Well, sure enough, we're paired up together right
Yeah.
off the bat.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he didn't really get to drive the track at all, and he wrecks.
Yeah.
Well, their team is focused on, hey, we need to make sure Connor's okay, get his car ready. Well,
Sure.
I'm over here like, well, I'm in California by myself. Ain't no one changing my tires, putting fuel in my car, so I'm hopping out. And then luckily some of the other guys on the other team were like, hey, where's your guys? I'm like, I'm by myself. Well, what hit me was like at the end of the night, I got third place for it, which I didn't drive that good, but whatever. I got third place. And Rome's team and Forrest's team, they're all there, taking their photos and stuff. And I was like, well, guys, good job to y'all. And I was like, I ain't got a team, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. And just walked off. And I'm like, man, my team matters a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So what they do for me, and super appreciative of those guys. That are doing all the work and helping me. There's been a lot of times I'm getting in and out of the car helping in the previous years, but now, I get to drive. Those guys take care of the car. I know that they're going to take care of the car. So my crew chief, Mike, he's been doing really good. We added him to the team last year. Cameron, he works for me full time and then travels with me everywhere and drives the tow rig or whatever so we can make it because I'm not good at driving. I'll fall asleep in an instant driving somewhere far.
Yikes.
And Ryan's my spotter, and then we've been adding people to the team in and out now. We're getting to a point now where we can actually have 4 or 5 guys, which is huge. Before we're like 2 or 3 guys, doing what we can. And
well, people don't realize how much work it is there.
Yeah. Well, back before I was helping a buddy that drag races, Marty, and I wanted to go so bad, and I would go, and I'm like paying my way to go, and I'm working, and everyone's like, "Man, that's so cool, you're with him." I'm like, "Man, that's a lot of work."
Yeah.
Like I'm helping him, and stuff. It is cool, and because he succeeded a lot, so it's cool to be a part of a winning team. But at the same time, like it's a lot of work for those, and so it was cool to experience that. So. And I would help, I want to go and help a couple of other buddies that dirt track race, and I kind of want to get that experience. And, I just want to go help them for free and experience that stuff. So I appreciate all the people that are helping me. And, it's cool to see a lot of the people that I go and drive with at Clarksville that are sharing my stuff, that are fans and stuff. And, I appreciate all those people as well. It's cool because I get to drive with, like, the Cosmic guys and Napier and just all these different groups of guys. And so it's cool that they're like supporting me and stuff too, because I'm supportive of them. So
I got like a tiny little taste of that. I went and drove up there this past Sunday, and golly, I'm so busy running my business, running my events, running the events that Brian and I run together. We're gone a lot. And it never seems to fail that I would never get to go to the Clarksville events. They would always pop up at a funny little deal.
Yep.
And I mean, it's a small little lot, and in the past I've had a big horsepower car, and it was fine, it was all right, but I'd kind of gotten my fill of it. But Andy's been so good to work with me on my events. He comes and helps me on my events. He makes sure, and he doesn't schedule anything at the same time that I do, and he's a great guy. And he thinks the same as me, and I was like, he started telling me that he was going to do his little birthday bash thing, and I said, tell me when that is so I can put that on my calendar, and I will be there. Because I want to go and get up there and drive with you guys, because I just haven't.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I kind of had the same thing. Like, I was like, man, I'm not going to Clarksville to drive. Like, I'll wait till the other events, It was only an hour away from my house. I didn't start going there, maybe like the past year.
Yeah.
So, but now, like, I literally will go to every single one that I can now. Yeah. So, it's cool. And there's a lot of dudes that are ripping, too, now that, are going there. So, it's really fun to drive with all those. And, obviously, anytime we can come to NSS or whatever, we try to now, like, we got, like, a solid group now back home. Like, there's, like, before I was, like, the only drifter in my area. And it was, like, I was like, man, why do I even drift? Like, how did I even get into this?
Yeah.
And then now there's, like, 8 to 10 of us now that all rip, and it's like cool, like we all go and we all meet up in the gas station and travel down. It's really cool now,
Nice. Yeah.
So
it was fun. I've got the little Z now that we use as a little rental car.
Yeah.
Low horsepower, fun little ripper, one set of tires all day long, kind of thing like that.
Hey, no, I changed a set.
You did, but they were all dead. I mean, when you got there, it wasn't like you smoked them off or anything. In fact, the tires that you put on at Mid-Pond, I ran them all day long at Clarksville. The same set of tires, so those are still the tires that are on the back of it. But it was fun because, like, 3 or 4 people walked up to me, and I had a little, star moment or whatever you want to call it. Hey, didn't know you'd be here. That's cool, awesome, like that. And then somebody else comes up, who's in the Z? And I'm like, I'm driving it. You're driving it? Oh, man, we didn't know you still, like I don't even drive anymore. When I'm running an event, I mean, I've got my vet there, but I
hardly ever see you drive.
I might get 4 or 5 laps because I got so much other stuff to do, I wish I could make it to where everybody could run it and I could just get out there and play, but I gotta do what I gotta do to make sure everybody else
We're
gets to
getting
have
close
a good time.
though. We're working out the kinks.
Well, sure, Aldi does a great job
No,
at the
for
line.
sure.
Yeah.
You know, he takes care of everybody.
I don't know. He's a bad influence.
He's a
Well, he can
terrible
be.
influence.
Yeah, he's making me try to wreck my car every lap.
Brian. Happy birthday, buddy.
He's like, well, there's a mark on that side. And he's like, why is there not one on that side? I'm like, hey, it's hard on this track, okay?
Yeah. Oh. So, hey, let's talk about that for just a second. So, at the Nashville Super Speedway, which direction do you like to run better?
Ooh, probably backwards.
You run the backwards
It's cool
better?
to go on the fast initiation, but there's not many It's hard to stay consistent through that.
Yeah.
So I think it's way cooler going back. I don't know. It's better for tandem, I feel like.
Yeah.
Going backwards and.
Because you can start right there together and slam
Yeah.
second gear
Yeah.
and kick it through that little. Like
But
that.
it is cool to drop, all the
cool to
gears
hit
and go
100
as fast
miles
as
an
you
hour,
can.
isn't it?
Yep. So,
Yeah.
but and then it kills the tires, long
Yeah.
e-brake drag, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I'm more for the backwards actually.
I kind of like it too. For the longest time they wouldn't let us do that. They were bound and determined that track is designed by NASCAR to run one direction, and I had to really work to talk
Yeah.
them into letting
yeah.
us run it the other way.
Yeah.
But now that it's that way, it's simple.
I kind of feel like you feel the elevation change more too going backwards than you do going up the hill.
like down the little hill.
Yeah, down
kinda.
because there's actually a lot of change there. So
Oh, I know, dude. So when I first got the little Z, the first time I took it to the track, I had a little guy wanting to rent it and maybe buy it. And so I put him in it in the passenger seat to show it to him. And, of course, it ain't got no power. And I was having to hammer that thing, even just right off the line, to get it to link the course. You really had to drive it hard. And I got back in my Corvette after being in that Z for 6 or 8 runs, and I left the line and I went straight off of gravel because I hit it too hard,
Yeah.
And when the car got light and the bottom dropped out, it just went zing off into the ground. I was like, okay, good, that looked good.
yeah.
I can make myself look really cool sometimes, in case you haven't noticed. Well, listen, I will drive with you anytime, and
absolutely.
I'll
drive with anybody.
I will get door to door with you at any time. I really like doing that, and with anybody,
For sure.
same kind of thing. And the Speedway's a great place to do it. We're gonna work on getting some stuff going up at Beach Bend again.
Yeah, I like that.
The
I like that place.
Somebody was talking about, man, it'd be cool if we could do a
Yeah,
test
seen
and tune
that.
evening.
Yep.
So I called Brock. I said, hey man, what if we did, because they do drag racing test and tune.
Yeah.
What if we did a drift test and tune?
Absolutely.
He said, how about Tuesday nights?
Hell yeah.
I said, sure. Give me a calendar. He goes,
Yep.
well, May 7th's when it starts. So that's the first one. May 7th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Beach Bend. It's open to anybody. It's not even my event.
Yeah.
I won't even be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I think Scotty D's going to go up and help with the organization of it. He'll probably help
Yeah.
with the layout. I mean,
Yeah.
y'all need to run the LS Fest course and make it a test and tune for LS.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Why not?
That's super rad.
I think it's going to be like $60 to drive.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's cheap.
I mean, nothing, and then it's $12 a head, I think, to get in. So
Yeah, that's cheap.
so they'll be doing the drag racing thing. They'll be doing the was that my dog?
Yes.
Arr! Stupid dog. I can hear that. So, but yeah, go to that. Go
There'll be a
out
lot
there
of
and
people
drive.
taking off
Yeah.
early on Tuesdays.
They
now.
really will,
Yeah.
and there will be more of those. We'll just have to get a schedule. We don't know exactly.
Yeah.
He'll do that maybe once a month. How cool would that
That'd be
be?
really
Yeah.
cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys like you that are
Yeah.
just
It's crazy
learning.
that how many events we do have, kind of now.
Oh, I know.
We were talking about we were trying to pick. Me and my spotter were picking which days we're gonna go drift because on the weekend there'd be 2 events.
Yeah.
It's well, if we don't break the first day, we'll go to the second one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you got whenever we do a Slide Factory event here at the Speedway, you've got Mid Pond, only 3 hours away, 3.5,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You got that little driven Lux circuit down there in Alabama now.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You got now, if we get this test and tune thing going at Beach Bend, you've got Clarksville Drift doing once a month at least,
Yep.
sometimes more than that. So
Yeah.
the scene is really getting healthy
Yeah.
Yep.
here in Middle Tennessee, Lower
For sure.
Kentucky, Upper Alabama. So
Yeah.
it's really good to be able to get this many people involved. And every time you go and do an event, it happened this week at Sunday at Clarksville. How many new drivers do we have? 3 or 4 hands go
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that.
They're
Yep.
turning it into a weekly thing now too, because they're doing it again this Sunday.
No kidding.
Yeah, because there's that many drivers. Why not?
Yeah.
If you can.
Absolutely.
This Sunday or next Sunday?
The 5th.
Yeah,
5th.
exactly. So not this weekend, but next.
Next. So
Yeah.
every other Sunday.
Yeah, I might be trying to go to that.
Well, you should.
No, because that's FD.
Mm-mm.
2 weeks is not FD? When
Yeah,
is-
2 weeks is FD. It's this weekend.
I'm going to
It's
look
this
at my
Sunday.
calendar. I'm all confused.
Parksville's the 5th, FD's the 9th, 10th.
Yep.
Oh, you're right.
Clarksville is the 5th.
It is the 5th.
FD is 9, 10, and 11.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
You
You're
gonna-
right. I'm
you
wrong.
going to go to Lanier after FD if you still have
I'm
a
trying.
car?
I'm trying. Yeah. Yeah. We'll
I
see.
still have not driven at Lanier.
We tested there. It's really good, actually.
I've got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be down there. Why don't you?
Because I'll be in
yeah,
Miami.
you'll be in Miami. That's right.
Because my beautiful wife is turning years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's going to be her birthday, and we're going to
Yeah.
go to Miami for a week and lay on the beach and chill and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
It'll
So
be good.
I'm going to pamper her real good. She'll love that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any
Nate?
last words? Any sponsors? Anything else you want to plug?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me out. And it's been good. And
It's been my pleasure.
it's been a long time
Well,
a journey with Tennessee Drift. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been around since almost the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
bit of it. So use this to up your social media so that you can get more sponsors, and so can we. So everybody out there, click everything you can click. Subscribe, Spotify, YouTube. Gosh, what all else
Just
is
share
it on?
us, man.
Facebook.
Just share
Help
us.
us out, Mr.
TikTok.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Instagram, all of them.
Everything is mostly Slide Factory. Look for Get Slydewayz with Barry Clapp. We'll be here. Be sure and hit like, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And tell your friends, man. If they're not watching this show, they're really missing out on some really cool stuff.
do you know who's next week?
Next week, like I accidentally let the cat out of the bag last week because I thought he was...
I know. I'm really excited for him.
I had my weeks mixed up. Next week, Chris Bostic.
Oh, cool.
Pro drag bike guy.
Yeah.
And if you remember, it's the guy that used to own the Kia dealerships. Don't you leave till you see me. He's the coolest little cat. We just did a wrap for him on his big hauler.
Yeah.
And he is 65 years old
Yeah. That'll be really
and
good.
blasting down the quarter-mile drag
yeah.
strip on a motorcycle at
Absolutely.
220
That's
miles
so
an hour.
scary.
That's really cool.
It is. It's going to be a good show. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you next week on Get Slydewayz with Barry Clapp. Be sure and follow us, like us, all that good stuff. You know how to do it.